Like we've just tried to, understand what the Bible says about education, what it says about discipleship, because that's really what education is all about. Yeah, it's not a reward or anything. It's just trying to help people contextualize like the impact that we're having at classical conversations, especially when you're talking to like different thought leaders or elected officials, to help them understand like the amount of students and families that are being supported worldwide. God has just brought like the right people at the right time and opened doors, and
Hi, welcome back to The Ordinary Brave. I'm your host, Kelly, and today's conversation is one I've been especially excited and honestly grateful to bring to you. We're living in a moment where education has become a battleground, and parents feel it, I feel it, students feel it, and whether we like it or not, faith is right at the center of this conversation. What does it mean to educate children with truth, wisdom, and virtue in a culture that increasingly defines those words very differently? And who really owns the responsibility for education? Is it the state or the family? And has the phrase separation of church and state been misunderstood or intentionally weaponized? Today, I'm joined by someone uniquely positioned to speak into all of that. It's Robert Bortins. He's the CEO of Classical Conversations, a global homeschooling program serving tens of thousands of families across the world. He's also the author of the book Woke and Weaponized, where he takes a clear-eyed look at how ideology has crept into education and why parents must reclaim both responsibility and courage. And in this conversation, we're going to talk about how education has become politicized, why school choice matters now more than ever, and what the Constitution actually says about faith in the public life. This is not a conversation about fear. It's really a conversation about freedom and about responsibility and about raising the next generation. So whether you're a parent or an educator or someone who simply cares about the future of our culture, I ask you to lean in. So welcome, Robert Bortins from Classical Conversations.
Kelly, thanks for having me, and I appreciate you inviting me on the show today to talk about my new book and all the exciting things going on in our country.
Yes, now before we get started, I do want to give a shout out that I'm a huge Clemson fan. So for those of the people that know me, I'm a diehard Clemson fan here in SEC country in Tennessee, and I'm holding strong to my Clemson Tigers here. But I know you graduated from there. And what was your major there?
Yeah, I studied industrial engineering, and so I was in that field, working in manufacturing and logistics for about 7 or 8 years after college before I came to work for the family business at Classical Conversations.
Yes. Now I think I saw that you were in, and you might still serve on. Is it a rugby club or something that's affiliated with Clemson?
Yeah, so I played rugby at Clemson, and then I served on the alumni board or the Clemson Rugby Foundation. So I'm not currently serving, but still supporting them any way I can.
Mm-hmm. And now Classical Conversations, their corporate office is based out of Southern Pines, North Carolina. Is that right?
Yeah, yep. So we're just about an hour south of Raleigh, and yeah, we have about 60 or 70 employees that work in the home office, and about another 100 or so that work from home across the globe.
And y'all have a beautiful golf course there. Isn't that correct?
Oh yeah, so yeah. If you watch the U.S. Open about every 4 or 5 years, it comes down here. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
very special, beautiful place to live and raise my family.
Yes, well, it is beautiful. This was before I was a Classical Conversations family, but my cousin played golf for Clemson, and he
Ah,
had a tournament there, and so we drove there to watch him play. My husband is a pastor, and we actually lived in Wake Forest, North Carolina.
mm.
It was his very first church that he pastored, and so we drove to Southern Pines to see him play. And little did I know that the corporate office was
Yeah.
there at that time because mine were just babies; they were still in diapers, so we weren't even schooling yet, but. It is a beautiful area. But I wanted to talk quickly and first about Classical Conversations. Obviously, you're the CEO of it. Would you care to just share how Classical Conversations came to be?
Yeah, sure. So when I was homeschooled through high school, and as I was entering high school, like many families, how are we going to get into college? How am I going to teach the harder subjects? Like these questions were questions my parents were looking into, as well as just a lot of my friends. And as they talked to different private school headmasters at the time, there wasn't really a private option there. And so my mom and my dad said, well, maybe we'll do something. And so we started with 11 students, myself being one of them, in our basement in 1997. Everyone, all the families enjoyed it. So just decided to do another year. And at that time, the curriculum was about 16 pages. So those were stapled together and given to another mom to start her own little group to do at home with some of our younger siblings. And it just, God blessed it, and it grew from there to now, he said, supporting tens of thousands of families around the globe, and, millions of families over the last, 27, or I guess almost 30 years now. So it's been really neat to watch how God moves and blesses it, and just hearing the stories from the families who's been positively impacted by, this curriculum and these communities that we have founded.
So, did you or your mom ever dream that CC, and that's for those that don't know, that's what we call classical conversations that are in it. We call it CC. Did you all ever dream that it would grow this large?
No, not really. I mean, there was my mom was always entrepreneurial, and so she thought maybe it would be something that like could grow into North Carolina and maybe some neighboring states or something like that. But God has just brought like the right people at the right time and open doors, and once we kind of we're almost through with being in the United States in every single state, then people internationally started hearing about it and wanting to bring it to their country and things like that. So it's so give God all the glory for everything, and like we've just tried to understand what the Bible says about education, what it says about discipleship, because that's really what education is all about. How we should behave, and we're imperfect, so we fail all the time, but every day we strive to take those biblical principles and apply it to business and life, and homeschooling and education, and help other families do the same thing.
So, how many countries are you guys in?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in about 60 countries right now, and some of those might just be one or two families that are, might be missionaries, or there's countries where we have, thousands of students. Like Brazil is our biggest country outside the U.S. I think we have about 6,000 students there. Wow. There's a handful of countries that are like between 1,000 and 3,000 students as well. So it's really cool to hear about, students from those countries now having graduated and going on to university or starting their own businesses, and just the global impact and just the number of saints we'll be able to hang out with in heaven one day.
Right. One thing that I love about it being global is my husband's a pastor. We're very active in overseas missions, and we have a mission partner. I can't really say where they live, but they're in the South Asia area, and they do CC. And so it's really fun when we get to go visit, because I can just jump right in and kind of help with their memory work and the things that they're doing there. And the same when they come home stateside, to visit family, they can jump in a community where their family is and just jump right into doing CC and without missing a beat. So it is such an incredible program. And it's so exciting that people can do it all over the world. And like you said, I love that picture of just being together in heaven one day and all of us worshiping, and it's awesome. So my LR, which is our local representative here in our area in Cookeville, was telling me that you guys received some kind of national ranking, or I don't know if it was an award, but I just wanted to make sure that I'm saying it right. It's something like we're the 20th largest school district in the United States. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's not a reward or anything. It's just trying to help people contextualize like the impact that we're having at classical conversations, especially when you're talking to like different thought leaders or elected officials, to help them understand like the amount of students and families that are being supported worldwide. So we just kind of look at that to help people understand the size and scope of us. Because a lot of times, either people think that like we're super small, or don't even know that there's something outside of their own community. So that helps just people kind of understand school districts and stuff like that.
Yes, that's true. So that, numbers wise, that would put us as like the 20th largest in the nation. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, it bounces around between like 18 and 22nd, depending on how different states are growing, changing their lines and stuff like that.
Sure, sure. Well, one of the big things with CC is we talk a lot about structure, content, and pedagogy. If you want to dialogue about any of that, just for people that may not be super familiar with classical conversations, and just share that. I know some of the big parts of CC for me when I was first learning about the organization was just one of the big components was the community component. You've got the classical, the Christian, and the community. But if you want to talk about any of that, just to share about CC, and I'm sure I'll pipe in and talk about how much I love it too.
Yeah, sure. So we're a full K through 12 curriculum, and even beyond that now we have college courses and all sorts of things through some of our partnerships and different things for parents. But you can think of us as so we have a curriculum that we've developed, and then the curriculum is a biblical worldview. It's Christ-centered. We believe everything points to God. That's one of the things that's radically different about classical conversations. We don't put children in the center of education. We put God in the center of education and to glorify Him. And then the community aspect of once a week with a trained parent tutor that goes through our training program and has access to some of our experts on how to teach and how to educate is leading that community day. And so they're not an expert at one subject. They're an expert at teaching and demonstrating the classical model, so that we're training parents on a weekly basis on how they can become better homeschoolers, understand how to pass down knowledge to the next generation. So we do that. It's called the classical model. It's basically broken into kind of 3 stages of learning that's applied to any realm of knowledge. And so we consider like each subject is a way that we're practicing these tools, and they're grammar, dialectic, or logic, and rhetoric are those 3 kind of stages that you go through. And we have developed 5 tools for each of them. So basically during all those years, you're using all those subjects to practice those 15 tools of learning that will benefit the student as an adult for the rest of their lives. And so so we have about 2,000, give or take, in a year in the United States, and we have about 800 international communities. Again, just the Lord's blessing us, and there's definitely, more than likely, there's probably a community within driving distance of you, and if not, we'd be happy to get one started for you.
Yes. Well, I can't say enough about classical conversations. Just to tell a little bit of my story, and some of the people listening to my podcast regularly, it's fairly new. I think we just posted our 12th episode today. But originally, I'm the daughter of 2 public school teachers and was told homeschooling was weird, all of my life. And my parents cringe when I say that because they see what a benefit it's been for our family, now that we're in it. But, and in their defense, there are some weird homeschoolers out there.
Sure.
I mean, we can be weird sometimes in our own family too. But it was never on my radar. And I had a decent public school experience. I have learning disabilities. School was actually always really hard for me. I'm very dyslexic and just struggled all the way through. Never thought I was going to college. Ended up going. God had a different story for me when it came to finishing my education. And but I never thought I'd homeschool our kids. And when we moved to Cookeville, Tennessee, which was about 10 years ago, we moved at the beginning of the summer. I went and started touring the schools in our area, and we have some good schools. There's nothing wrong per se with our schools here, but the Lord was just like, this is not what you're doing. You're going to be homeschooling. And I fought it all summer long. I mean, fought hard, and finally gave in and started homeschooling that year. But I really kind of did it in a silo. I was more just figuring out what to do. Everybody was giving me used curriculum, and at that time I was only homeschooling 2 kids, so I was doing 2 different subjects, 2 different grade levels, like a first grade level science and a 4th grade level science, and just trying to figure it out. And then we have 6 kids now, but as the journey continued, I was homeschooling the five, and it just became more and more difficult. Are you still there?
I'm still here, but my screen left.
Okay.
Camera
It's okay if
has an
you like,
issue.
because this will download to my computer, and my little senior homeschooler in our church is going to edit it also.
Okay.
He's not going to edit
Yeah,
what
I
we
don't know
say.
why that happened.
Okay.
It's back now.
Okay. I just saw all of a sudden it cut off, and I was like, uh-oh. I was talking about CC.
Yep.
So
Sorry.
that's okay. But I was struggling as more kids came into our own homeschool. It was getting very difficult for me to do all those different grade levels with my children, and I have some that also have learning disabilities, and so it was getting hard because some of them needed more attention than the others, and I was struggling. And one thing I was really lacking was a community, and also I really wanted to find a strong curriculum. I didn't love what we were using, all the things that we were borrowed. I was borrowed from people. I was so thankful because we needed that help with our income. But I knew that I wanted something more rich than what we were doing. And I had a friend in the town that we moved from, which is Manchester, Tennessee, and she had recently started her daughter in a classical conversations, and so she came to visit us, made the drive to come visit us and say hello. And she started having her daughter sing all the songs, like here's the president song and tell me about this, and I was very impressed. But she's an only child, and she kept saying, I know you can't see this because I only have one, but I promise you could put all five in this program and it would streamline it for your family, and you would love the curriculum. And so I just began to research and quickly fell in love, and went to an open house at a local classical conversations, and started hearing about it. And one of the ladies said, we'd love to have your family. And I just said, I'm just not sure, excuse me, if I can afford, to be a part of classical conversations. And they immediately said, don't let money be a hindrance. The Lord will provide, and we need a tutor. So I jumped right in that first year and tutored foundations and essentials. And it was the best thing for me, even though it was hard and I was learning everything from the beginning. It really helped me be, as you say, a better homeschooler at home, for my kids. And so we've been a part of the program 7 years now. Absolutely love it. Just graduated our oldest last year out of Challenge 4, and he's going to Tennessee Tech here in our town. And we have a junior, a sophomore, an 8th grader, a 6th grader, and a 2nd grader. So we are so thankful for this program. We appreciate all that Classical Conversations has done to help homeschool families.
Thank you. Yeah, my wife is tutoring essentials right now for her 2nd year, and we actually, my daughter's tutor had her father was sick, so she's helping take care of him. So I'm actually subbing as a tutor for 4 weeks.
I saw that online. I love it. I saw
going
your
into the fire. I have a little bit of advantage, I guess, over most tutors, but I didn't take foundations myself, and other than just trying a helpful dad, it's not like I have a memory mastered or anything like that.
I've got one trying to mega master
Awesome.
this year, so we're excited about that. It's my 6th grader, and we're looking forward to it. He's working hard, and we have one from our community that applied for the National Memory Master. So we're sitting on the edge of our seats waiting to see how that turns out for her. But well, I want to jump in and talk about a book. I mean, you have a great resume, but now you're an author of a book, and yes, hold it up. Woke and Weaponized, and you co-authored that with Alex, is it Newman? Is that right?
Yep, Alex Newman. Yes, he's a journalist and a researcher from Florida.
Well, I've been watching some of y'all's podcasts together too, and just listening to him. He's a genius. I mean, he's so brilliant and has done so much research. And then also he's mentioned other books, and I thought, I'm going to have to go get those and read some of those as well.
The best thing for new authors to do is go get someone who's smarter than you and has already written multiple books to help you.
Amen. I hear it. Well, I'm excited to get my hands on the book. I think my Amazon said it's coming in a week and a half, I think, is when it's supposed to arrive. Hopefully
Awesome.
sooner. Do you know when it's actually releasing? Is it out?
It's Yeah, Amazon has been tough to deal with. So hopefully it'll be on Amazon Prime soon, which
Hmm.
would then be able to get to everyone within a couple of days of ordering it. So, but right now they have the book, but they have to distribute it to their distribution channel, and so that was
Okay.
a little bit more difficult than we had anticipated. But yeah, so you can order it and it'll get shipped as soon as they get around to it. So, and hopefully
Yes,
in a
I
week
did
or
a
two
I
it'll
did a
be.
pre-order, and I think it said it was going to be to me by February 20th or something like that.
Okay.
So we're not too far away from that, but I was hoping I'm just hoping
Hopefully
I'll
it'll
be.
be there sooner than that.
Yes, yes. Well, let's talk about your book. And a very CC thing to do is give out some definitions. So, what do you mean by woke, and how has it become weaponized?
Yeah, so woke, basically as a kind of a slang term for collectivist, that the collective is greater than the individual, and that our education really is just the results of our education system today that we see all around us. Like 34% of kids reading at grade level was not accidental, it wasn't a failure of the system, but that the system itself was co opted really in the 1950s and even before that
Hmm.
to be woke and weaponized. And, it took generations of kind of deprogramming from the families to get farther and farther from the center of the educational movement to where we are today, but that that Karl Marx really did win the battle for America, and the only way for us to win it back is to pursue educational independence and educational excellence inside of our own families and inside of our own communities. And so that was the purpose of the book, because I mean, weaponized, right? I mean, like more than half of kids now, I think, are on some sort of subscription drug.
Mm.
Boys and girls don't know which bathrooms to use anymore. I mean, it's really, you have depression at an all-time high in the United States, and so just how the whole entire system has been designed has been weaponized against the most vulnerable of us in the United States, and that's the children.
Yes. So, one thing that I think I heard in an interview where you and Alex were talking was you were talking about the importance of, this is great for educators and people who are in the school system, but this is a parent issue and even really a church issue. So maybe just talk about that, about why it's important we as parents and church members understand what's going on.
Yeah, so we go back to original source documents. We're classically educated, so we're going to go back to what the authors read and wrote, and so that we can understand the intent of it. And so, chapter 1, we reveal a character named Robert Owen, who's probably not familiar even in a lot of educational circles, and we've got a lot of his documents. But basically, he was a collectivist, or what we would know as a communist. But it was before, almost, it was like same time as Karl Marx. And he tried to start a commune in Indiana, and it failed. And he basically came to the conclusion it was because parents were such an integral part of raising their children, and that they really needed, for the collectivist ideology to survive, that they needed to have a public school system that the state controlled and financed. And so he identified basically the trinity of evil, he called it in one of his speeches. And that trinity, I don't think any of us would recognize, but it is family, religion, and private property. And
Mm-hmm.
so, private property, that's kind of the idea, and part of that woke ideology is really that private property is the root of all evil. That's why we have wars. That's why we have, famines, or people with not enough food or not enough education. That if because of private property and this idea that children belong to families, and that families should rely on God instead of government to be their provider. And so then we talk about, we have the whole appendix on the Russian USSR. I think it's about 30 pages, again, well documented on how they realized they couldn't take over the United States because of our military capabilities, and so that they would have to infiltrate it a different way. And they really identified teachers' colleges as a way of subversing the American dream. They partnered with, foundations. If you've heard of USAID, that's nothing new. They were doing the same thing in the 1950s. So people like the Carnegie Foundation and the Ford Foundation were actively trying to meld the United States with the USSR. They've written it down, again, well documented, and said, basically that they would use the teachers' colleges to get this collectivist ideology into the public school system, so that the U.S. Populace would be willing to become, socialists or communists or collectivists, whatever phrase you like to use. And today Generation Z, identifies more with socialists than capitalists. We've got socialist is now in charge of the America's biggest city, the financial center of New York City. So it's it's become very clear that it's just they've used public school in such a way that even for us as Christians, it's kind of this collectivist ideology has crept into our back of our minds. And so, for pastors, they need to understand what's actually going on, what's the root. Jesus gave us the principle, build on a rock, don't build on a sand. And what we see is, like Barna shows, like 3% of Gen Z has a biblical worldview, 8% or so of the United States, 72% of kids, I believe, who are in church but go to public school are no longer practicing Christians just 2 years after graduation. And so this should be ringing alarm bells in every single pastor and church community, and we should be coming together to make sure that our kids get out of the system and get educated classically and in a biblical worldview. Otherwise, we'll get more of the same, and it'll continue to get worse for all of us in this country.
Yes, and I want to just reiterate something you've already said, that this is well documented. This is not a podcast, or you, even as a CEO, fear mongering or conspiracy theorist. It's true documented information. And I just feel like there'll be some that be like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're just trying to scare us. And so I just want to reiterate that these are documents that has this information showing the ideology behind all of this. And y'all have those in your appendix, right? In your book.
Yeah. So those documents. Page 273 starts our end notes, and it ends on 289. So yeah, what is that? 16 pages of links.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot. And that doesn't even include, like, Appendix B has all of the end notes at the bottom of the page, because I had an expert in Russia intelligence write Appendix B. So that doesn't even include the countless notes in Appendix B that shows exactly what their plan was and how it was executed. And you can go read the Reese report. It's I think it was 1953 or maybe 1956. As Congress, the U.S. Congress documented it all, and of course they did nothing about it. Probably because a lot of them were getting financed by it.
Yes. So all of that was happening then, really before you and I were born. So how does that translate to now, into the public education system now?
Yeah, so, I mean, you've got to understand, like, when the public education system was started, they had to send, like, police to families' house to drag the kids from their crying mother's arms to get them to, go to these institutions. And now we've got, memes of moms celebrating, sending their kids off in the yellow school bus. So the mentality has completely shifted, through decades, through this kind of indoctrination process. So even Horace Mann, who I think there's probably like 300 high schools named after Horace Mann in the United States. I'm not sure the exact number. So he's celebrated, my point, by the educational establishment, said, and I'm paraphrasing the exact quotes in the book, but basically that children are going to be hostages to his cause of collectivism. So each generation lost a little bit from the previous generation, and things go slow until until they start going fast. And so you imagine, like, you can just follow Barna since the 90s, where they basically had like maybe 20% of Americans had a biblical worldview, now down to 3%. That is just slowly eroded through the curriculum choices, through just the ideology that parents can't be trusted with their own children. They have to be sent off to state-approved experts. And all along, I mean, probably most states, half of your taxes goes to prop up the school systems. So you got to think about 50% of your state taxes, which, whether you have income tax or property tax or however your state collects it, because each of them do it differently, 50 cents on the dollar is going to a system that spends about $18,000 a year per kid, and only about 34% of them are proficient at any one subject matter, and there's plenty of subject matters where those numbers drop down into the teens. So it's very expensive. It wastes years of lives, destroys families, and it's really destroyed the intellectual capability of generations.
So I guess I may play a little bit of devil's advocate here, and I loved in the interview again with Alex that y'all did together. I think you said we didn't write this book, to become popular.
Yeah.
Just me. This is just a hard discussion to have, and people don't like to hear it. And I mentioned my parents are public school teachers. My dad actually just retired last year. My mom is still teaching, and she would say, yes, things have changed, over the years, and she would say all of that and loves the decision that we've made to homeschool. But what do we say to those families? And there's Christian families, just like you said, people and love, that either they have to send their kids to public school, or I have friends that are teachers, that go to our church that are public school teachers. Like, how do we have this discussion with them, but also loving, our brothers and sisters in Christ?
Sure. So my wife was a public school teacher for 10 years. So just to be clear on that. Now, that was before we met and got married. But the point is, it's the system itself, right, is the woke and weaponized. And so, a lot of teachers, they're doing the best they can. They love their families. They love their kids. But I think there was a documentary called like Waiting on Superman that was maybe about 15 years ago or so, and it's the system itself. And so that's why I think teachers have some of the highest turnover in the world for their profession. More teachers, I've heard, homeschool their kids than any other demographic. So you got to understand that they're put in an impossible situation. So like, I run a business with 170 people, so I read tons of management books, and there's not a management book ever written that suggests anyone should manage more than 10 people. Now let's think about this situation, right? 10 people that have been presumably educated and trained how to do their job. They're paid to be there, so they're at least incentivized enough to do good enough not to get fired, so that they can continue living whatever lifestyles they want. And we suggest that we need one adult to watch 10 other ones. So my wife, when she was teaching middle school, saw any up to 300 kids per day. Now, anyone with a family knows it's hard enough to love the 5 or 6 people whose blood runs through their veins and yours, right? I coach youth basketball, and it's like you got 10 or 11 kids, and it's hard enough to give them each one as much as they need in that 1 hour, hour and a half practice that you have with them. And so just from like a human standpoint, like it becomes very obvious very quickly. It doesn't matter like how much your teacher loves the students and wants to do a good job. When you have teachers colleges that aren't even teaching them how to pass on knowledge but just manage classrooms, which I hear from plenty of teachers. And you've got a system that just wants to it's a beast that is always wants more money, always needs more. It just accumulates power to itself, and that's just what systems do. It's not bad mouthing any Christians that are there, right? But it's saying that as Christian families, and especially as a church, and that's really what the church's responsibility is, to help step in, is like okay, yeah, I can imagine that there might be situations temporarily where this might be needed or required, but it's the standard operating procedures, and we've got to get out of that mindset, and that starts with the pulpit. And I don't want to pretend like I'm holier than thou. I have plenty of embarrassing and terrible things I've done in my life that I'll have to answer for in the bema seat. But Jesus told the story of the good shepherd who lost one sheep and went and found him and had the 99 others. Well, if Barn is right and our shepherds are losing 72 of the 100 sheep that they have on average, that's a tough situation to be in, and one I don't want to have to answer for. So I would just encourage pastors, if those statistics are real, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah,